ubiquitous top, right? We all love tops. We all love to make tops. First of all, I want a show of hands of who all is doing demos at the fair this year. Okay? Out of those, is this your first year of doing that? Your first year? A few of you? Okay? Fantastic. That's what I like to see. As a wood turner and as a teacher, I love to see people doing new things, going out demonstrating and or teaching, and usually poplar. If I can get a good poplar or a fairly soft hard maple, I will do that. All I'm using here is a roughing gouge. This is one of the things out at the fair. You can really work on your technique, possibly work with different woods, different tools that you wouldn't normally be working on. Maybe working left-handed or right-handed, as the case may be. And different little projects. Couple little tricks. We always think about design when we're thinking of wood turning. Well, there are some certain things that we want to do with a top as far as design. To make a good spinning top, one that does what you want it to do, one of the things is to have the outer body part, have it fairly wide, okay? It doesn't need to be very thick, top to bottom. It doesn't need to be fairly thick. If you make it too thick there, as some of those you may see, they're really thick. Very tough to get them going and to keep them going, okay? So try to make that middle part wide, but not very thick. The second thing is to have a very good point. Now I haven't created my point yet. You don't want to go too far here before creating that point. Move this out just a little bit. This is one way to make them. And you'll notice I'm getting a bit of flex here. Do you see that on the video? So that's why I'm wrapping my hand around it. Now, this isn't very good for a demo. Not for here, and certainly not whenever you've got a kid standing in front of you. Okay, they want to see this thing being created. So that's why I generally don't do it this way. Now see, that thing popped off before I was really ready, although it will go ahead and spin. That one really I would call it more of a dud. What I tend to do is I want to have my blanks a little shorter than that long one I had, a little bit shorter. And go ahead and just use my roughing gouge. Make my point, come over here. What I'm doing right now is I'm just creating a lot of space. This thing's a little wide, so I need some space to work. Now my stem here, that's as far down as I want to go with that stem right now, because I still have some work up here to do. See, I'm getting another few catches. I'm going to go ahead and stand over this way. Bring that on down. You don't want to have that stem too thick at the top. We tend to think, hey, you know, if the very end here is a little thicker, it'll be easier to spin. No, it really isn't. It may look a little bit better, but it really isn't. Now, if you want to do any little decoration to this thing, do it now. Put a few grooves in it. You can put some beads in it. You could also do a little bit of coloration. The kids absolutely love, oh, actually they're over here. I always carry a bunch of colored Sharpies. See that? For the most part, the smaller the better. And I will often have these set over here on the side. And as my kids come through, and I usually have a line, they grab which ones they want, up to 3, and come in. We can color it like that, or we can make a spiral. And also do a spiral along here. It's more personalized for the kids. Part this off however you'd like. Fun little thing to do is if they're sitting there watching you really intently, come over here and just pull it off of it. Just hand it to them. I also like to have a little space. Now, usually not on a lathe, there's not enough space there, but I like to have a little space and you sit there and spin it. Get the oohs and the ahs and oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can also turn these things upside down. I really can't, I probably won't be able to do it here. There's not enough space, I'm not that good. Oop. Here's the upside. Flip it over. And you'll notice I've got a little bitty nubbin right there, right? That's perfect for spinning on that side. You have to kind of push it up just a little bit, give it a spin, enough space, and it'll go upside down. They love it. Okay? You'll notice for you segmented wood turners out there, there's one little bitty one floating around here. You can go ahead and spice up yours. Use some of your cutoffs. Use it for that. Now there was a time when I was doing tops quite often where I could do a sub 10-second top. I don't claim to be able to do that now, but
hey Andy,
yes.
I heard you had a competition one year at the fair where you turned with things other than your chisel.
Okay, I don't know how the fair is these days. First of all, let me ask, while I'm getting this set up, are the wood carvers still in charge of the wood division? Oh, wood carvers. That started the great wood turner, wood carver wars of the early 2000s. Is, who is it, John? Yep. Still, oh. Any of you that have done the fair for a while or have been in charge of it for a while know John, the wood carver. By the way, if you guys see John, tell him Andy says hi. And that's about as G-rated as we can get. Great friend. We see each other at various events. Yes, we did. When does the E-Plex close? Is it 9 still, or around 9 o'clock or so? Yeah. Is it still been pretty dead from about 7, 8 o'clock till close? Yeah. Well, a guy you guys might know, Don Carlson. That was the first year of the club doing the fair. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to form a tenon. good shoulder on this tenon so it actually stays put. Yeah, that was the first year. This was probably the fourth night out there that Don and I were, we were out there, and we were in a really small spot because they hadn't been doing wood division terribly long, and so we were all stuck into this one little bitty spot with the carvers. And it was pretty boring and nothing was going on, and so anyway, Don and I we were going back and forth turning. We had just the one of the mini lathes that we were using, going back and forth, kind of going through our tools, trying different projects. Make sure we're on here good. So we came up with this competition. We're kind of joking around with each other about how many tools we brought to this thing, which I normally win. I bring so many things. There's no reason to do that, but I brought so many things. We came up with this competition that we each had to use one of our tools to work on this one project. Well, we ran through our normal tools, so I started rummaging around in my my box that I keep my live center and various tools and whatever. So I ran through all of mine. Don cheats and digs into his pockets and pulls out his keys. And we're getting lower and lower, smaller diameter, smaller diameter. And we just keep going. I grabbed one of the carver's tools. By the way, they don't like that. I'm not saying that had anything to do with the little war that we had. But it probably contributed to it. By the way, you know you can use this as a skew, right? All with your roughing tool. Practice using just your skew or spindle gouge. Again, like I said, fair time is playtime, experiment time. So anyway, we got to the end of the night, and we had used pretty much anything we could find within walking distance. They would not let us into the knitting needle, the fiber arts area, because it's those carvers again. They ratted us out to these people. So they kind of hit onto that, and we didn't want to fight them. So, but anyway, it's one of those things that you just kind of do whatever you can, and with whatever you've got. So let's say you don't have any wood, structured wood to work with. Right here. You got a limb? We can work with a limb. Let's take this off. First of all, I want to be able to create a tenon on this. While I could technically do that with a chuck. Let's not attempt that. What do you say? Let's just go ahead and put in a spur center. Pull this up. Get somewhere in the relation of center. Whatever wood you've got around, whatever you can find, something can be made from it for fair.
Putting that in the fifth or just center of the
About the center of the dimension of it. Depends upon the wood. If you've got a soft wood, you want to get it into the heart of the wood, which comes down to finding the right piece of wood to work with. If you put it in the center, but yet it's kind of soft where that is, no, you really don't want to do that. Okay, that's the big thing too about at fair or any public demonstration, safety. Got to be safe. You're dealing with public. Even though we have this here, I assume you're going to have this at the fair, right? Things can happen. Which brings me to another point about public demonstrations. While we all know speed kills on a lathe, it also makes people really afraid to stand in front of you. You want people to be in front of you or around you to see what you're doing. What I'm going to do right here is very lightly, as you can probably see here, see the shadow? Shadow? For those of you that do natural edge stuff, no big surprise. For those of you that don't, it can be a little disconcerting at the start. But just remember, the way you've been taught or the way you've learned, you start on the tool rest, you push in until you start getting a cut, whether you see that cut or not, and start cutting. So I've just come up just a little bit. I'm going to take care of this tenon, get rid of some waste. I'm creating just a little shallow tenon on this. I don't know if this is going to fit in there even then. So we'll just do a little bit of a tenon and a good shoulder and see if that goes. That will not fit. So we flip it around, or actually, yeah, we'll flip it around. We'll create a tenon on the other side. Okay, a couple of little tidbits that I've picked up over the years on club public demonstrations. These may be relevant to your club or not. When you're doing a public demonstration, it is that. It's not a club meeting. Okay? You may have 2, 3, 4 people there of your club working at the demonstration, but it's really not about you guys. It's about the club. It's about getting, where the heck did it go? There it is. It's about getting people interested in your club, advertising it, I've often seen from various clubs around the country where they will just kind of sit there and chat whenever there's people around, okay? Whenever there's people around, chat and go on like this was, thank you, like this was a club meeting. It really isn't. So be attentive to what's going on out in front of you. About how many people do you guys schedule for the club meeting at any one time? Or I'm sorry, for the demonstration at the fair.
We've got, we try to fill 5 slots.
5 slots at a time.
Readers, 3 turners.
Very good. Very good. Yep, excellent. That's the next thing is that I've really seen at some clubs is that they will have people turning and have people out in front. Not everybody can sit there and turn and talk about what they're doing at the same time. The general rule of thumb that I have found at least is that if you're demonstrating at a public event, out like at the fair, that you're turning maybe 30% of the time. You're talking with people the other part, the other 30%. The rest we don't talk about. Now, people love to see you turn, but they also love to tell you about what they do or what they would like to do. Friction polish is good. Yeah, good stuff. Even a wax, a paste wax. I have a little bit of a beeswax stick. Run it over it. Looks great for a while. Okay, it's not going to hold up to heavy use on a thing that's going to be handled all the time. Collects dust, but for a fair project, perfectly fine. Little stick, run over it. It's basically a friction polish. Okay, good stuff. Okay. Ah. Here we go. All right, here's a little kit project you can make. Now, I did not actually buy the kit. I went to a overstock place, found a interchangeable screwdriver set, put the handle, the plastic handle that was in there, in the vise, crunched it, took this out. I think I got them for like 20 cents each. Whole bunch of them. Turn you a handle, there you go. Christmas gift or whatever. Cheap, cheap, cheap. That's what I'm all about, cheap. Say nothing, Larry. Another perfect project for a public event. Honey dipper. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start out, this is my next project here, I'm going to start out with something that you can do both ways. You can make this into a honey dipper and a spurtle and a whole lot of other things. Okay? Depending upon what you feel like at the time. Now again, all I'm showing you are just a few of the little things that you can make. Literally hundreds. A little bowl. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to show these. I'm going to show that one on. A little bowl. Just a little square edge bowl. Some places do not like you to turn bowls for public demonstration. Perfectly valid. I mean, if you're not a really experienced, I mean, heck, even if you are an experienced turner, there are times when those suckers come off. They explode. You want to get a little too far, a little too thin. But if you're turning a small project, even a bowl, some of these people really want to see more than just spindle projects. If you're not comfortable doing that, don't do it. If you are comfortable doing that, do something small. Doesn't mean it can't be innovative, can't be a little different, but you can do that. Okay? Very simple. Anybody know what that is? Probably most people do. It's a dibber. Call it a dibber. Okay? Not fancy at all. Extremely basic. You want to tend to make these out of a hardwood, ash, usually what I make it out of. Osage orange, hedge, bodark, all names for the same tree. Good one to use. It's a planting for bulbs. Okay? You can make a ton of those at fair. This is a piece of ash wood. You're watching my time, Larry?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a little tidbit. Now, it's not relevant to you guys for what you're doing. You set up your own or your club's lathes for your demonstration. But if you ever do a demonstration where you're bringing your own lathes in, don't mess with another person's lathe. They may actually have it set up exactly the way they want it. I had a very well-meaning, at a whole other different club than this, well-meaning person that, it was a little bit rainy outside when we were bringing our lathes in. I had my little jet mini lathe. Bringing it in, it was misting a little bit. And he came in and he really cleaned up the bed ways. Okay, really cleaned it up, beautiful, waxed it and everything. I don't like it that way. I could never get my tailstock to stay put. It would never stay put. I had to finally go in and strip it all out, sand it, and get it back. I like a little bit of rust, just that ever small oxidation on the ways. So, just a little hint there. Okay, this is a piece of ash. Let's move this up just a bit here. Is that a little loud? Just a little, did you kind of hear what I, having corners on it? You go, ba, 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 ba. If you really want to make a sound, turn the speed down just a little bit. Hear that brrrr. If you want some attention in a large auditorium like the E-Plex, don't pre-round your stuff. I get more people going, where'd that sound come from? What is that? And you can see them start roaming around the aisles, and they'll come right over to your spot. Okay? E-Plex is pretty big. There's a lot of bigger venues out there too. If you want to get their attention, take a nice piece of hardwood, leave the corners on it, and go brrrr. You'll get their attention. You'll get them over to you. That keeps them in front of you. That's right. Not too close. The parent, you're right. The parents are holding the kids. Yeah, right here. Stay right here. We don't know exactly what's going on with this one. That's exactly right. Whatever you can do to draw attention to yourself, not that I know anything about that, but if you're at some of these events, that can be very important. But I've made my own sharpening disc that fits on the lathe. All it is MDF, 2 pieces of MDF glued together. The end here I flattened off on the lathe. This is silicon carbide, not aluminum oxide. Silicon carbide is for steel, aluminum oxide is for wood. This is a Morse taper that has a bolt that runs through it, little flathead that's been recessed in here. And then all I've done is I've come in and I've scraped grooves in here so I can sharpen on the lathe whenever I have to. Nice little compact small thing. But if you've got the Wolverine there, fantastic. That's great. All right, let's try this again. A little better this time. Paying a little bit more attention to what I'm doing. Okay, so I round off that end. I'm going to come over, by the way, you're not supposed to do this, but I'm doing it anyway to save just a little bit of time. Turn your lathe off before moving your tool rest. What I tend to do is I go ahead and make my starting parting cut on most projects that I'm working on, just so that I can visually see what's going on here. Okay? I'm also going to round this side off, see if this side is sharpened any better. Yeah, it is. Okay, from here you can make all kinds of projects. You can make a honey dipper. You can make a spurtle. Everybody know what a spurtle is? Rounded on both ends. Oh, let's go ahead and quickly make that. Now this will be a very short spurtle. You can make a baby rattle. You can make a teething stick. Hopefully out of like pear, apple, wood. So I've got my basic outline for a spurtle. It's a stirring stick. It predates, well, fork, spoon, most ladles. It's a Scottish invention. It is absolutely wonderful. Let's go ahead and use this other. It's absolutely wonderful for potato soup. Anybody make potato soup? And what do? You have potato soup with homemade noodles, big old pot, and it's always better the second day, third, fourth, fifth, if it lasts that long, right? But the problem is, your wife says, or whatever, says the next day when you're heating it up, go in there, you got to stir it, right? Stir it. But it has a bottom to it. Don't disturb that bottom. It's crusty along the bottom of it. You got to keep that intact. I got in trouble many times for taking that spoon, big old spoon, going in there and stirring it up and getting all that junk up. It was horrible, terrible, it ruined the whole thing. So she came up with this several years ago that other turners were turning. This is one of those projects that's just been around forever. The rounded end, which is what I'm making right now, allows you to hit that bottom but not disturb the bottom, right? And you can do whatever you want from here on up. I tend to make mine double-ended. Just because I don't do a lot of dishes. Use one end, kind of set it over to the side, then use the other end the next time. There. Now, if you want to do any decorations, you can do decorations now. Do a bead or two. You can do a captured ring in here. If you got a little wire with you, you can take some of these and burn the insides of it to give it a little definition. Just whatever you want to do. By the way, that noise, not so good. It usually makes people go, I really don't want to be over there. So do something about the screeching. By the way, remember what I told you about the roughing tool you can use as a skew? Here it is. Okay, about half of that is used as a skew, the other half as just a roughing gouge. And I'll part this off and let you guys take a look at it. You want to make that bottom kind of flat-ish, definitely not pointed, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm just barely leaving that sucker on. Again, don't do this. You'll notice my thumb here. Just providing a little bit of support. You can do this one-handed, but if you can have your thumb on it, all the better. Now, just running out of space in there, so I'm just going to take my skew and part that off. Get off there. Roughing gouge, skew roughing gouge. Use your tools for more than just one thing, I say. The other thing that I tend to do, if you're a fairly experienced turner, other than creating projects on the lathe, which they really want you to do, okay, they want to see you create stuff, but they also want to talk to you. And you're going to get, most people aren't going to spend but 5 minutes at max standing in front of you. Okay, occasionally you'll get the few, maybe 10%, that's going to be there for 15, 20 minutes maybe. Occasionally you're going to get somebody there for hours and hours. Okay, all day even. Okay, what they want to, then they're going to see what you're doing. They're great about doing that. But what I tend to do whenever I go to these things is I will take something like I'm going to one of these events. And I'll take something that I can show them, talk to them about. This is a hollow form cut in half. Now you guys are doing that, right? For you, those of you that do hollow forms, you cut yours, you're on its own, right? Yeah. There's nothing better to learn to do a hollow form right than cutting it in half. There you go. That's right. Now, this is mainly to see how well you're doing. See how even you're getting everything. Yes, you can use lasers. Yes, you can use calipers all over the place. But really, there's nothing better than getting it to where you think is just right by feel or otherwise. Cut it open and see what you've really done. But related to that is you can take this thing and say, okay, this is what this form would be. Okay, and I'm hollowing it through here. But now, this is what the inside looks like. It's something quick and easy you can take and show to these people that are a little bit more interested than just getting a top from you. Okay? The other thing, things that you've done, things you've practiced. I don't know how many of these I have done at various fairs and public demonstrations. These captured rings. If you don't practice these things, it'll get away from you. Okay? So I practice those and I can show people, hey, you know, here, well, here's something that you don't see every day. Captured ring. Well, how did you do that? You can make up all kinds of stories. You stretched it out, you steamed it, you did all kinds of things to play with them, you know. But the other thing is that you can say, okay, this is actually a project you can do, and this is how you do it. You can kind of show them how it's done. So take some of your other projects. Now, I know you guys have probably a display case with various things. You've probably got some of your people that are talkers, that's something that they go and do. Okay. Very important. Takes a variety of things. It doesn't have to be your best stuff. It doesn't have to be your worst stuff. Okay. They want to see a variety of things at these events. One of the things that I tend to take, and this is usually for other wood turners, and you've probably seen me do this here before, this is kind of my traveling trembler. To most people, it's, well, that's interesting. That's nice. Okay. Pretty wood. To other wood turners, it's more along the lines of, hey, neat, that's a different project I've not tried before. How did you do that? So you want to have a variety of things to keep a variety of people interested.